Alright, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from Hop Butcher for the World, and they're out of Chicago, Illinois, and this is their minted, the 2022 release. So they're calling this one a Holiday Imperial Stout brewed with chocolate and Frango mint oil. It comes in at 10.5% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review. This can is just under 3 months old. I'm gonna give a huge thanks shout out once again to Hop Butcher for this beer. So big thanks to them. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail video I did that contains all the goodies they hooked me up with. And I'm happy that they sent me a couple cans of this because, full disclosure, I've had this before, not this vintage, but I had the 2021 release, and I reviewed it earlier last year with a couple good friends of mine and fellow beer tubers, Dan and Mike over at FLX Beer Reviews. Now, leading up to that review, I wanted to grab a box of the actual Frango mints that this beer is based off to kind of have a comparison, because none of us have ever had the Frango mints. Well, I forgot. I should say I forgot, there wasn't time to grab them, so we went in blind. And myself personally, I enjoyed this beer, but it was a little bit too roasty and minty without enough of that, what I was hoping would be sweet chocolate, kind of balance it out. I give it a 3.9 out of 5. So I was like, if they release it again in 2022, I'm going to grab myself some Frango mints. And I did. And I bought them on Black Friday of last year at Macy's. It was on sale, a box of 50, or a 1 pound box, which is about 50 of them. Instead of $30, it was $12. And I think outside of Chicago, like, Macy's is the main place to get them at. So I was able to grab an entire box of them, which look like this. So we have the beer, right? And then we have the mints. And what I want to do is, because I've never had them before, I wanted to, at the end of the review, kind of pair the mints with the chocolate and see, hey, how close did they actually come to replicating a Frango mint in, Imperial Stout form. Now, the aforementioned Dan and Mike already did this, and their review was posted maybe like a month ago, maybe 6 weeks, somewhere in that realm, and they had a much better experience having had the mints in the review and pairing them with the beer than they did when we reviewed it in early 2022. So, hoping that's the same for me. We will see. I'm going to crack this one open and get in the glass. So what I'm going to do is, at the end of the video, I'm going to pair it with a couple. I only have 4 mints left. So that's how. So I'm going to say this right from the get-go. They are absolutely phenomenal. Like, as far as, like, I'm going to cheat. Yeah, for sure. So as far as, like, mints go, or like chocolate mints go, they are some of the best I've ever had. I'm not shitting you. I've had, quite a few different chocolate mints, local, your Andes and all that stuff. And I will say, without question, that Frango mints are at the top of the food chain for me when it comes to chocolate mints. I ate almost that entire box in like a couple-week period because I just fat. I like food. I like candy. So anyway, that looks beautiful. And I remember the beer last year looking beautiful. Yeah, it's pitch black. Has about 1.5 fingers of a straight up dark brown colored head, super creamy, almost looks nitro-esque. Hold it up to the light, you can't see it. Looks beautiful in the Hop Butcher, hashtag proper glassware. Yeah, let's get a nose. Yeah. So it smells almost like the mints. And you know what? What I'll do is, I'm not gonna eat them, but let me get an aroma of them and see how they smell. Let me crack them open over here. Something like this. Now again, there's only 4 left. There's only 4 chocolates left. That's right. Let me smell them. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit more potent now. Again, these Frango mints have been open for almost 3 months now. So we'll see. I mean, I've been eating them along the way, and they really have tasted the same, so it's not like they're stale or anything. They definitely still have a good taste to them. But the nose is fantastic. It's just basically chocolate mint. It's like a chocolate mint ice cream. Again, chocolate mint candy. A lot of sweet, creamy, like milk chocolate. A little bit of like a Hershey's like special dark. And then you're getting this nice, soft, cool mint sensation. So touch of like a roasted malt. I remember last year's being a little bit more roasty. Maybe it was just in the taste and not in the nose. But yeah, this is not overly complex. I mean, it's a little bit of roasted malt, sweet and milk, chocolate, sweet and milk, no. Milk and dark chocolate, and then there's mint. It just smells awesome. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Thanks again to Hop Butcher. So right at the get-go, 2 things I noticed. Number 1, the body and mouthfeel are outstanding like it was last year. So the first thing I remember about this beer was the body was like medium full, like almost full bodied for 10.5%. It was just beautiful, and that's what I'm kind of getting here. And then the mouthfeel itself, It's soft, it's smooth, it's creamy. There's like a mild to moderate carbonation, but it's so smooth and creamy, and it's softer than what you would think this beer would be. I don't know. Maybe you think it would be a little bit softer, but it's just awesome. Body mouthfeel, fantastic. The taste itself, again, not overly complex. From the palate, it's a roasted malt character that kind of turns into it turns into roasted malt, from roasted malt to like a dark chocolate. And on the palate, it's more like 30, 40, 50% cacao bar, something in that realm. It's not like sweet like a Hershey's Special Dark. And then it rolls into milk chocolate. Then halfway through the palate, that's where I get the cooling mint sensation. And the chocolate mint sensation carries to the back of the palate. It finishes semi-dry with a mild bitterness, but it has this really nice cooling sensation on the palate. I don't know, if they did anything different with the recipe this year, if they kept it exactly the same. To me, this drink's better than it did last year. Last year we just had, another thing I will say, last year we had the beer at room temperature. That was on us. We kind of got it out, let it sit for like longer than we kind of forgot about it. It was definitely room temperature. This is right on my darker beer fridge around 54, 55-ish. And I think a little bit colder is working for this. It's still not like, cold or anything. It's just cool. And I think it works a little bit better. I think the sweetness is being helped. I think at room temperature, the roasted kind of malt quality came a little bit more to the forefront. 10.5%. I'm not tasting it. Maybe a slight chest warming, very slight, but like on the palate, no. I would just think this is bigger because of the mouthfeel and the body just being as crazy as they are. This is way better than last year. This is like almost like a half point better. I don't know what it is. Like, it might be the temperature that I'm serving it at. It just might be my palate. When I hang out with Dan and Mike, we have a tendency to drink a lot of different beers over the course of a day. Sometimes we'll drink 10 to 12 over, it's 8-hour period. And I don't think this was one of the first ones we drank. So maybe our palate was #compromised. But this is way better than I remember. And that's before trying to pair it with the chocolate. So first thing I'm going to do is take another sip, rate it as a beer, read the tasting notes, and then we'll get into the comparison. Yeah, this is way better. Just on its own, it's significantly better to my palate. So, rating on the minted from Hop Butcher, the 2022 release, it's like chocolate syrup. I have absolutely no issues whatsoever in giving, let's move this out of the way, giving this beer right here a high 4.25, I'm going to go 4.35. It almost gets a half point better. Like, that's how significantly better this is to my palate this year. It's so good. It's so tasty. I enjoy it. And then on the back says Frango chocolate. And then underneath it says tasting notes. Cool mint, yes. The holidays. I remember this. The holidays. Yeah, even though it's not the holidays anymore. Jeremiah Hop Butcher, the holidays. And then creamy chocolate. I will say creamy chocolate. So cool mint and creamy chocolate, sure. And then the holidays. Not quite anymore, but I get what they're going for. So price point availability, I think these are like 18, 19 bucks in the Chicagoland area. Here's the funny thing. This beer showed up here in Buffalo, New York, and I actually bought a can of it because I was going to review it before they sent out the package to me. And it was $6.69 a can at the place I was at, and it was $23.99 a 4-pack. So definitely gets bumped up in distro. You're talking 18, 19 bucks to $24 for a 4-pack. Is this worth $6 a can? Probably not for me. But I would totally understand if someone bought this for, $6 to $6.50 a can, like, to try it out, sure. And availability, it's Hop Butcher, I don't know, all over the place now. Maybe not in your area, maybe in other people's area. It's tough. Do a Google search with shopping and see if you can find any websites that deliver to you if you want to try out their stuff. Now, let's do the, I can't remember which one I talked about. Here, I'm just going to eat one, trying to, lose weight. I talked about this. I can't be eating like multiple of these. I think calorie-wise, these are like 90, 150, I don't know. I'm not great at math. Let's see what they have on the back here. They don't have anything for calories, do they? Oh yeah, they do right here. 3 mints are 160, so each one of these is what, like 53 calories, 53.3 calories. I'm going to take a single bite of it, and then I am going to take a sip of the beer. So, yeah, these are awesome. Hands down. What I like about it is the mint isn't crazy, but it's noticeable. The chocolate itself is really creamy. I would prefer to get the dark. They were all out of dark and white. They actually had a mixed box of white, dark, and milk, which I would have loved to have, but I only got these. I figured this is going after the OG based on the, everything. But if you look, they have the, I think that's a white chocolate version. Anyway, I'm gonna take a sip after having that. That's nice. Bumps up the sweetness of the beer so you don't have any issues with like the roasted malt. All right, now let me eat this and then take this as I'm eating it. I think this is better to drink after you have already consumed the chocolate. Unless you like that kind of boozy chocolate feel. Because as I took the sip, I feel like the alcohol was a little bit more prevalent with the chocolate in my mouth. These chocolates are awesome. I'm going to finish the rest of them off this week. But I will say, now actually having the chocolates and the beer, they have come very close at replicating the Frango mints in beer form. Next year, I'm going to grab the, like I said, the dark and maybe the white just to see the differences. If I can get the combo box, I will. But I think last year we effed up, or at least I effed up not picking up the mints themselves. And I just think this year's beer is better, or I'm drinking it again at a better temperature or with not a compromised palate. So huge props to Jeremiah and the whole crew over at Hot Butcher for doing this beer. I know Frango mints are very popular in Chicago. I've had a couple people ask me, I just thought they were popular everywhere. They're not. I've honestly never have heard of Frango mints until maybe within the past 5 years, I heard somebody say something about them, Hot Butcher beers. But now that I have, I want to try more. So if I ever see, I will say this, $30 for a pound box is kind of crazy at Macy's. So if I see them on sale, I'll pick them up. But like, now I take it back, it was 12 bucks, I think. I was gonna say 18, I think it was 12 bucks. So 12 bucks for that, definitely worth it. 30, a little bit expensive. I don't know what it is in Chicago where you can get these. I think Garrett Brands owns the Frango brand at this point. But yeah, anyway, this went on a little bit longer, but I figured as much. So huge thanks to Hot Butcher for sending this one my way. Huge thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. If you've had this beer before, post in the comment section. Have you had this beer? And have you had Frango mints? If you have, what do you think? Do you think they did a good job replicating? Have you tried this pairing where you're actually eating the chocolate with the beer? If so, what were your results? I also want to say this is the last beer of the most recent box from Hot Butcher. So no more Hot Butcher reviews in the next week or two, unless they either A, send me a box, or some of their beers show up here in the Buffalo, New York area, and I will buy them. They've been supporting the channel now for like 3+ years. So when their stuff shows up here locally, I have no issues putting some more money in their pockets by buying stuff here locally. So big thanks to everybody. To the next one. Cheers.